Welcome back to Tigs Bits. I'm Tigs, and today I'm joined by my co-host, JR the Handler. Unfortunately, Blasi, the one-man posse, has been sequestered for federal jury duty, and he won't be joining us this week, but don't worry, he'll be back next week. But in the meantime, we've got a fantastic show for you. I kind of found this one fitting since we love to talk about music, and since we have the great fortune of having a tour manager for one of the top acts in country music co-hosting this show with us. So I thought it'd be fun if we did a little countdown of the top 10 country artists and the top 10 country songs as provided to us by both Grok. That's how you pronounce it, JR. It's Grok. I didn't know what to call it. Grok, Rock. I thought the G may be silent. It's Grok. I've found this out, and ChatGPT. So just right off the bat, both were very, very similar in their list, which kind of surprised me because it wasn't with the comedy movies. So I just find this, I find lists fun, JR.
Yeah, I love lists. What we did last week, we did barbecue, which was just bonkers. And then you guys got to do the fun comedy movies, which was, it's so subjective, but still seemed bonkers to us too. Some of the stuff, you know.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm interested. I love to see what they come up with, just to see what information it's pulling from and how crazy and distorted everything is. It just feeds into all of our little conspiracy theories.
We'll start with the artist. We'll start with the top 10 country artists.
And it's artist, it's not singer. It says artist. It just
artist. Specifically okay. Artists. There are males and females on this top 10 list.
Yep, better be.
So yeah,
it's wrong right now. If it's not, I can tell you that.
Look, I'm going to say this. I don't think it's off, but I think there are notables that we would maybe put in there. So let's start it off. Number 10, Patsy Cline. With, you know, I mean, I can't disagree with Patsy Cline being on the list. Maybe not, but definitely in the discussion.
In the discussion, that's a 10 is tough. I'm gonna say that Patsy Cline's career was cut short. Her body of work with the Willie Nelson song and several others that was just so big and so instrumental on beginning of the next phase of television and radio being big when she was a star, that I'm sure her because Crazy's going to be one of the top songs too. I'm sure.
I haven't gotten that far,
right,
but I think it is.
But I'm playing that off. No disrespect to Miss Patsy Cline, absolutely not. But 10 is a hard list too. I'll be interested to see how this goes. She definitely deserves a nod on any list. But like I say, 10 short, and she was shortened. But yes, Patsy Cline. I mean, very instrumental. There's no Loretta Lynn without a Patsy Cline. So I mean,
true.
You can go down those lanes too. All right, number 9.
Very true. Reba McEntire with her crossover appeal and her career longevity.
Reba, huge star.
I think Reba 1,000,000%
she's probably
going to stay in this top 10.
She's probably going to make the top 10. And I don't want to be crucified for this, but not a huge Reba fan personally. Like some of her stuff. I love that song "How Blue." It's probably my favorite song of hers. But yeah, and this list you'll see on there too, and I'll hint around on that. But the crossover appeal is so big when you go from being a country artist in the eyes of country music fans to being in a public spotlight. You'll see that with a couple of these that are going to be on this list. Is Reba without the TV show? Probably, but doesn't hurt to have the show.
At number 8, you mentioned her just a few minutes ago, Miss Loretta Lynn.
She's Loretta Lynn is one of personal favorite too, so I'm a little biased. She was my granddad's favorite. I love some Loretta Lynn, her story, her songs, her personality. People that I know that knew her, I've only met her once or twice in passing. Never got really to talk to her. But just the total package there, buddy. And again, like I said, this was going to pop up. Her life story, played by Sissy Spacek, doesn't hurt her longevity either to introduce her to a newer audience. You know what I'm saying? Same as like with Reba and the TV show. That's going to put some people, the people who just like the show, to go back and realize, oh, she was a super huge country artist playing at stadiums and stuff before she went to television. So that helps. But Loretta Lynn,
Coal Miner's Daughter. I mean, that movie is what made me really know who she was.
Exactly.
You know,
Millions.
I didn't know.
Millions, brother. Yeah. When you get on that small screen like that, especially back in the day when you got 12 channels, unless you got cable and you know what I mean? It just was a different time then. And I've got we'll deep dive into that one night on a live or maybe on a podcast. The story, I have a few little backstories on the making of that movie, the place where they stayed. I've actually stayed there, a couple months together living in a hotel to learn how to be Sissy Spacek, learn how to be her. Some cool stories on that we'll get to one day. Wow. But yes, Loretta Lynn definitely deserves to be on any list again. I love coming out of the whole three ladies of country music strong.
Just right off the bat. Strong. I love that.
Imagine if you went to that concert in retrospect, guy or girl. I mean, there's it don't matter if you think they're cute or you love their songs or the girls that look up to them. I mean, there's something for everybody there. That's just three great artists.
I mean, you wouldn't have a Lainey Wilson just completely doing what she's doing. You wouldn't have all of that.
And you wouldn't have people rocking Reba Business Sense and Loretta Long. I mean, they did it different ways, but their business outside of that, owning stuff and doing things, huge. Great list so far, AI.
Coming in at number 7, I mean, this legend here, they get better and better, of course, as we go. I'm a little surprised that he's ranked at number 7. Merle Haggard.
Man, this goes back to one of those ones you start sub-genreing this greatest artist into singer, writer, musician, entertainer, subgenre, this category. Hag's way at the top on some of these. He's, it's hard to argue these. Again, 10's going to be tough, but I'm you're not going to find a bigger Merle Haggard fan than me, so yeah. I'm good with it. And the only reason I'm good with it because I've done some type lists. I just know how tight it gets up there, and you're like,
yeah,
really, Merle Haggard 7? Because you think, I mean, but also this is art. If you look at Picasso, you might like Picasso, and I like Van Gogh. You know what I mean?
Right. Yes,
it's art. It's meant to be construed different.
That's correct.
You're doing a general asking people. Getting a list would be one way to get it done, but it's all going to be subjective to what you like.
Very,
I'm totally good with Hag.
Subjective.
Any country top 10's got to have the Hag in it. Yes.
What's your favorite Merle Haggard song?
Man, too many good ones too many good ones to mention. I mean, to pick one, it's too many. It depends on what mood you're in. You know what I mean? Silver Wings always sounds good, but in anything though.
Footlights for me, man.
Footlights. I saw Joe Nichols do that 2 weekends ago. That was absolutely as good of a version as you're ever going to hear in your life. Was Joe Nichols doing that live?
Man, Joe Nichols was so awesome when got to see him with Justin Moore.
Yeah. He was there that night too. Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
We did 2 more shows with him last weekend in Arkansas and Missouri, and he did Footlights one night and tore the house down. I can't remember this. And then the next night he did another farewell party. He did Farewell Party because someone in Justin's family had mentioned it'd be cool if you do that sometime. I heard you do it on the Opry one time. So he did that the next night, dude, and it was Farewell Party. Oh my God, it was so good. It gives me chills thinking about how good it was. So good. And then this past weekend, we got Randy Houser. We're on tour with Randy Houser right now. So of course every night I'm watching him, and he's bringing the house down. He does a cover of George Strait's Troubadour that just absolutely slays, and then he does his own stuff. Anyway, I got to get off that. We'll do a tour recap at some point.
Yes.
But,
I can't.
And going back to Merle Haggard before we get off number 7, I've got tons of backstories and inside tidbits on the Hag, as I'm sure a lot of people do, because he had such a great career and was such a big artist and for a long time.
Oh man, just a legend, one of the best. I got to see Merle. When was that? Probably 2004, 2005-ish. I mean, it was as good as you'd think it would be. So far on the list of people that I've actually seen, and I've seen several others as we have coming up, but he's the first one to enter the list that I've actually seen, and what a freaking show, man.
Yeah.
What a freaking show.
We saw him 2 nights at the Ryman Auditorium before he passed. 2-night stand at the Ryman. Brought my mom, my aunt, my granddad, Sharice. It was amazing.
Coming in at number 6 in the top 10 all-time greatest country artist from ChatGPT, Mr. Garth Brooks. Mr. Garth Brooks. I don't think you could have the list without him.
Yeah, he was, and not a big fan of Garth personally, like a few of his older stuff, but not a huge Garth guy. But respect. I mean, there's nobody sold as many tickets, packed as many places out. He did a million people in Central Park back in the day. I mean,
yes, he did.
He's done some crazy big numbers. He and Reba both. The business owes them a debt of gratitude because they took the money to another level with different things like that. I mean, people weren't doing stadiums to the level that Garth was until that was happening, and then obviously Strait does it now, and a lot of Morgan Wallen, a lot of the big artists will. But Garth took it rock and roll. I told the story. There's a podcast called Murder on Music Row that was put out by the Tennessean there in Nashville. It was a story about a guy who got killed on Music Row in the 90s that was involved in the music business, some of the shady underbelly side of it. But there's a story in there where Tony Brown is talking to another producer, and they get pitched two different artists, and they say the only two we ever missed on, one was Dwight Yoakam, missed on that one. And then the other was Garth Brooks. And he said Tony Brown and Jimmy Bowen had a meeting or got pitched Garth Brooks by his manager, and Jimmy Bowen asked Garth, said, who is Garth Brooks? And he said, I'm a little Queen, I'm a little Bob Seger, I'm a little named off 5 or 6 other acts, a little James Taylor, a little this, a little that, and I'm a whole lot of Garth Brooks. And then he left, and then Jimmy Bowen asked Tony Brown, he said, what'd you think, Tony? He said, I think he's full of shit. But then he says, like 2 months later, he's flying, he's propelling down to the stage on a rope on fire in Texas Stadium, and he was off to the races. And then so he called Jimmy, and Tony Brown called Jimmy Bowen and says, Jimmy, I think he was telling the truth. So not a bigger artist than Garth Brooks at certain points. Can't argue that. Again, it's a short list, but Garth's done enough business to have to be on this list.
For sure. And I mean, he is responsible for one of my top moments at any concert that I've seen him at. Not my top concert that I've ever been to, but one of the moments. I mean, you get him inside a full Tiger Stadium, a
singing
full
Baton
Death
Rouge.
Valley, singing Calling Baton Rouge.
Oh,
Come on, man.
I bet.
Come on, man.
I bet.
Yeah, it was. It caused another earthquake. There's been 2 earthquakes to happen in Tiger Stadium. One was when LSU beat Auburn at the end. To go up in a tight game in 1988, cause an earthquake. There's actually been 3. There was another one that was the Garthquake, and then the LSU beating Alabama in that overtime where they went for 2. Naturally, I mean that was a wild ending. So, I mean, any man who can create an earthquake, a Garthquake, I mean that's huge, man. That's huge.
Yeah.
But speaking of playing in monster venues and breaking records, coming in at number 5.
That's a little low for the King.
It's kind of what I'm thinking too, dude. It's a little low.
George Strait changed the game. Longevity. He took the best of everybody. He is your Superman of superheroes. Everybody else has special powers. He has all the special powers.
All of them.
And then again, like I've said for some of these other ones, having a movie like Pure Country, is he George Strait without Pure Country? We'll never know, but we know a lot of mainstream people who may have not knew him know him from that. Then they go look, they're like, oh, George Strait, boy, he's handsome. Next thing you know, they're buying his records. Next thing you know, they've been going to George Strait's concerts for 40 years.
The smoke, the lights. I just can't do it. That's one of my favorite quotes from Pure Country. Look, I'm going to say something that, as much as I love him, his acting in that movie was not, maybe I would say, is not the greatest, but it was fun. No. Yeah. It was fun, and it created. We would make fun of that in high school.
Yeah, well, like if you go back and watch, I always said that too. Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, Christopherson's the only one that really has any acting chops. But Waylon, all those guys would be in a bunch of made-for-television Western movies back in the day. They were all terrible. But it doesn't matter. It's them. It's really them.
It would be like putting us in a movie, JR. I mean, it's
Kenny
just some good
Rogers,
old boys having fun.
even Kenny Rogers in The Gambler and all those movies, it was all right, but not really. The movies where he's the race car guy. I mean, any of those movies.
Yes.
You know.
I mean, have they held up? No, they have not. They have not held up.
But it's good. So Strait didn't have to. He just had to go out there and show him what he looked like, what he sounded like, and them songs he had, and that's it. That's it. He was the real deal from San Antonio, Texas. Still operates out of San Antonio. Never did the Nashville thing. Not a member of the Grand Ole Opry. Total Texas. Did it his own way. The King, George Strait. That's tough. 5. I got to put the King. Will probably be a couple of notches higher, in my opinion. If not the top dog in a lot of people's worlds.
Number 4, Willie Nelson, baby.
Willie.
I mean, Willie has to be in your top 5. Willie may be, for me, Willie may be number 1 for me.
Right.
Personally.
See, Willie would be,
Yeah.
Randy Houser said this weekend Willie Nelson was his favorite artist. And, you know, to me, though, an overall top artist, I don't know if I'd have Willie in the top 4 or 5 in there. I mean, he's got to be on the list. But but that goes back to what your criteria is for each of these artists. Is it most well recognized? Because obviously Willie's as recognized as anyone.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But you got him up to George Strait. Willie Nelson has maybe 2 number 1 hits, maybe 5 top 10 hits all time. George Strait's got 52 number 1 hits. You know what I mean? It depends on what your criteria is.
That's
true. So those
true.
things. A huge Willie Nelson fan. Not saying anything about that. I'm a huge Charlie Daniels fan too. But it's the top artists of all time have a tight criteria. Not saying Willie doesn't deserve it. That's why it's to each person. The list is going to be different.
Willie's going to be on several lists. Singer, songwriters, all
songwriter
of that stuff.
for sure.
Yes, yes. But I think he's definitely in the conversation.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Willie, huge. No, and like I said, one of the most recognized figures. I mean, him and Snoop Dogg. I mean, everybody knows what them two guys look like.
That's
you
it.
know what I mean? And they're on that, and they're associated with something like cannabis industry that's been taboo for years and no one would touch. He's always been,
very pro cannabis. So and Snoop too, and everything. I mean, they've made songs together.
And Willie with the IRS thing again. Willie in movies. Willie is he on this list without everybody knowing who he is? If it's just for his music and his concerts, is it that? Great concerts, 4th of July picnic, So it's wild.
Willie flirted with my wife about the time I saw Merle Haggard. It was all in that time era. It was like 2002, 2003. We were up close. He kept winking at her and pointing. It was nice. It was fun. It's like, play on, Willie. I'll go backstage. I would really like to come back there. Let's go on that tour bus, Willie. It didn't work out, but I had a fun night.
Top three.
Top
Bronze
3.
medalist.
Was wondering when she was going to creep in to this conversation. I think just by saying she, you already know who I am talking about. None other than Miss Dolly Parton.
She's on She's on my Mount Rushmore of country music. She has to be. It's Dolly. Not just because she's as well known as she is, because of, again, movies don't hurt your overall appeal. Television shows, commercials, all that stuff. But her singing is top notch. Her songwriting is top notch. Her playing is top notch. She's been on the road forever, done it at a high level. Endured through changes in the business like nobody else. Always weathered the storm. Never had a bad moment. Never called in sick. Never had a stinky little part of her career where something wasn't right and you had to go find out for yourself, was it true or not. I hope she didn't do that or say that. Dolly, solid as an oak. Couldn't have to have her on the top. She's on my Mount Rushmore. So yeah, you could argue you could argue she's the number 1 country artist of all time.
For sure. I think she could be on a Mount Rushmore of music. Period.
Yeah, music in general.
All genres.
Absolutely.
I mean, she should be on any top 10 list. Just her timeless influence of music and from music. I mean, she just made that album here in the last year or so that's a ton of cover songs covering rock songs and everything else. They're fantastic. I mean, she's just unbelievable. She's somebody I would love to meet at some point. Have you ever crossed paths with her?
Yes, but never got to really talk to her or anything. Been around her, been in her presence a few times.
Yeah, but that's good enough.
I don't think I've ever met her.
I think you would remember if you'd met
I don't know.
her
You'd be surprised. I know. That's crazy, right?
Well, you've met a lot of people.
Well,
There's every every show.
Well, it's like you mentioned,
run
they
into
want
somebody.
more of these little nuggets. Sometimes I don't have them just ready. They just have to be. They have to be called up to the plate. You know what I mean? Like these little tidbits. I don't think of them, and then it's like, oh, it's like
that's why I thought this exercise would be really, really good to potentially draw something out of you that we don't know about.
Oh, do y'all know Dolly? Do you know Dolly's sleeved? Both arms sleeved, confirmed.
What? With tattoos?
Yep, both arms sleeves. Why she'd always wear long stuff, a lot of makeup. Confirmed it on a morning show, a talk show about within the last 10 years. Confirmed. I've heard that my whole career.
Wow.
I got confirmation from someone who's worked around her, confirmed it. Then several years later, there's a video of her confirming it on national television. Yeah, she's sleeved up both arms.
There's you a Tigs bits. I had I had no idea. I've never even thought about it. I guess I've never seen her arm. She is always wearing long sleeves, isn't she?
Never see her husband Carl Dean either. Carl Dean made it last. Never see Carl take care of business. We'll see you at dinner. Take care of business.
Interesting.
Hey, guess how long they last? Everybody who wants to go out and be seen, do all this stuff, bring them on stage, all that. Guess how long that lasts? You know what I'm saying?
That's true. That's true. That is very true. Coming in at number 2, Hank Williams. I mean, I don't know how you don't have this list without Hank Williams. Personally, JR, I mean, I get why Hank Williams is on it, but I would have Hank Williams Jr.
Right.
But that's me.
Yeah, my Mount Rushmore has both of them because Hank Williams he took it again. He's one of those guys who transcended and took it to another level. Early television, radio's getting out there. He becomes one of the first big stars. You know, he takes the best of everybody around. He was the George Strait of his day. Know, he was it, and tragically got cut too soon. But the body of work he left, so many songs. He left hundreds of songs that he wrote, mostly by himself, that are still. In everyday vocabulary, and everyday you hear them on commercials and TVs because they make so much sense and they still hold up. Hank Williams is definitely in the top, if not the top, country music artist of all time. Because when you think about country music and pure country music, Hank Williams, he started it all. The nudie suits, the party outlook that Waylon and Willie and all them did later on. That all. If Hank wouldn't have died young, no one would have ever thought that was cool. They probably, you know what I mean? But those guys used it, flipped it, and uses their, reason people do it now. Young kids now get out on the road and party. Well, that's what Waylon and them did. Well, they didn't come to town doing that. They did that after they got a little change and after they had the clean cut look for a couple years, and then they started calling their own shots. But anyway, I say all that to say. His legacy and his lore and legend of Hank Williams passing almost helps it helped him. And then with his son coming along and being such a huge star, preaching and reminding everybody that daddy was the best, kind of deal. And, and people still name dropping him. Like I said, he's up there. Hank's as good as it gets.
How old was he when he died?
29.
I didn't think he'd made it to 30. That's insane. That's a lot. That body of work that he did in that short amount of time, just unbelievable. The Louisiana Hayride, all that stuff, I mean, I see why he's there. He deserves to be there. There's no doubt. But if my top 10, my personal top 10, he actually doesn't make it.
Right.
But I get it. That brings us to number 1.
There's only one.
I'm going to let you guess.
It's got to be. If it ain't George Jones, it ain't a list.
It ain't George Jones. And this is where I believe the controversy would come into play. It is not George Jones. He is not in ChatGPT's top 10. I'm 100% with you on that, JR. It's Johnny Cash is what ChatGPT has Johnny Cash for his crossover appeal and his immense influence.
Again.
No doubt.
Look at this list. Half of them, like I said, you're going to get a lot of love. And I love Johnny Cash.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not saying I don't love Johnny Cash. And he was huge. But again, when you're talking about writing and singing and playing and doing the certain stuff, George Jones had 10 times more stuff than Cash and 10 times better singer, better player. Cash again gets that lore from the downside. It's almost like we love our rock stars to be,
Just
a little dark and dirty. We either want them to die or almost die, is what people love that story, I guess. But I love Johnny Cash, but that's tough for me. I just couldn't. I'd have him in a top 10 probably, but not number one in my world. But commercial appeal. You see how many kids now walk around with a Cash shirt on? Don't even know who he is.
Yeah, very true.
I have friends that are musicians locally that play around and to tourists and things like that, and they always say you can gauge a crowd by Johnny Cash you can always play a Johnny Cash and get in because people don't even know they know it or like it, but they know there's programmed to supposed to like it. And it's Ring of Fire or one of those, Boy Named Sue or something, And it's crazy enough too, and I'm not to diminish anything from Cash because Cash was awesome. The Johnny Cash show on television, late 60s, early 70s, that was huge. Him doing all the PSAs for different things. He was friends with the presidents. I mean, he was so culturally revered, and being integral with that family and a great show on the road. And then the comeback with the Highwaymen with Waylon, and Chris Christopherson. But if you go back, a lot of the Johnny Cash songs that you think were Johnny Cash wrote and did himself were actually covers. Folsom Prison Blues.
That's true.
Folsom Prison Blues is actually a song called Crescent City Blues, and he just rewrote the words to it. They sued him. He settled out of court and paid it because it was their song.
We are going to go down our list of the top 10 country songs of all time as given to us by our friend ChatGPT. I call her Amber. That's a whole nother story for another day. But anyhow, so let's start at number 10. Miss Tammy Wynette, Stand By Your Man.
Huge song. I mean, it's a saying too. It became a everyday phrase. Stand by your man became a thing. Over that time. Jones didn't like it at first when she first pitched it to him until she told him that she had wrote it, and he changed his tune.
What an interesting. Did you watch that? I'm sure you watched that HBO thing on Tammy and George, I think is what the name
Some of
it
it
was.
I did, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how
it was close
much of it.
It was close to accurate. Some of it was close to accurate. Yeah, if you want to
Okay.
know anything about George Jones and Tammy Wynette, go check out Cocaine and Rhinestones by Tyler Mahan Coe, and that's your definitive information on that subject. No need for me to even try to break it down because he does a great job.
Yes, he does. Yes, he
But
does.
That song was huge. It's a big song. Everybody, it's
song.
It's
a big
catchy.
song.
Everybody knows it.
That's right. And I think it got a little bit more love back in the 90s because of Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton during all of that stuff, and Hillary Clinton saying that she was going to stand by her man, and
exactly
it regenerated it again.
So
showbiz,
little press.
had a lot of power.
Yep.
It's got a lot of power for sure.
All right, what's number 9?
Number 9, Johnny Cash's fiery classic, Ring of Fire. Which, okay. I mean, the list of top 10 songs I have problems with much more than the list of top 10 artists.
No.
Yeah.
Ring of Fire, written by my one of my personal heroes, Merle Kilgore, and June Carter Cash.
Ring of Fire's a cover?
No, they wrote it for him, but it was written by Merle Kilgore, though.
Huh. See, there's a Tigs bit.
And if I'm wrong, I'm not wrong by much. I don't Google this stuff and look it up.
Y'all
It's
don't
all
Google
straight
this
from the
stuff.
dome.
Yeah, just let it. It's just coming from the dome. It's probably accurate. Coming in at number 8. This doesn't make sense why it's even on the list to me at all. Take Me Home, Country Roads. Why is that on the list?
That's what we got to find out. Like, is this list of people who actually like country music or just a million random people who may or may not even know what country music? This is the only country music songs they know. Because these are some popular ones because these are ones you know. But now the greatest songs, we'll see. All right, what's 7? No comment on Country Roads.
Number 7 is Your Cheatin' Heart, Hank Williams classic. I mean, that's on the list. That should be on the list. That should be on the top 10
You could
list.
put 3 or 4 Hank songs if you're talking about well written, what they mean, poignant, test of time songs, but yeah, got to have some Hank songs on there.
For sure.
Hillbilly Shakespeare. That was his nickname.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Moving along, number 6. Finally making an appearance. He Stopped Loving Her Today. At least I think their Chat GPT's getting that right, because it certainly should be on the list.
Like country music does, it's a short movie. It's so descriptive. You can visualize what the context of the words are and the melody. It takes you to that place in your mind, and you can visualize exactly the story the writer and artist are trying to portray. He Stopped Loving Her Today. I mean, man, especially if you're in a situation, if you're going through some stuff, man. But it lets you know everybody's going through some stuff. So
that's true.
What a great tune. Yeah, Jones. You know, he didn't write that. He didn't write hardly any of his own songs, but I'm sure he didn't write that. But does it matter? The artist with the writer and the artist together. You write it. The magic's not always there. It might take that kind of magic. You know what I mean?
You know what we're gonna have to probably do? Probably have to have another list.
Yeah, sure.
Down the road. Make us another list of
country music songs that the artist
singer-songwriters that the artist wrote. Quick question, JR, does Justin Moore write a majority of his songs?
Yeah,
I thought he did.
Yeah, he always has. But he also, when it's record cutting time, he'll put all the songs he wrote over here, and he'll get all the songs that he and his producer, whoever accumulates, that might sound like something he would do, and they put them together, and he picks the best ones. If other people's are better than his, or he's got a co-write on it or whatever, he's picking whichever ones are the best. Everybody does it different, because obviously you'll make more money if it's something you wrote.
Well, for sure.
If the publisher, especially with less people, if you wrote it by yourself, you get all the money. You split it with more people you write it with, all that. But he's always, I've heard him say this, and I'm I'm sure again all artists are different. He's always said, I just pick the best song after we listen to them, whether it's mine or somebody else's. I just want the best songs I can put on a record every time. So, but he usually does. Yes, he writes. It's usually at least half the stuff on the record he at least wrote or co-wrote.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Let's keep on going here. We're at number 5, I do believe. Yeah, we're at number 5. One of my favorite songs ever. It has to be at number 5. It just makes me smile even looking at it. Kenny Rogers, The Gambler. I love The Gambler. I mean, you got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them.
TV show, very catchy. I mean, I see why some of these songs are there. I get it.
That's right.
Kenny Rogers, psychedelic rock band guy going country. How about that?
Is that what happened?
Yeah.
I don't know that.
The first edition. See what condition my condition was in.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
right.
Yeah. He was an L.A. guy. He was already from Texas to L.A. by the time he decided to go country. Yeah,
he did it.
Conway
just for
Twitty,
the money,
another one. Conway Twitty was a rockabilly guy. I mean, even Marty Robbins, he was doing crooner type stuff. I mean, everybody finds their way. That's why I always say I'm not knocking new Nashville for having external influences come into the genre. It's always been there. People are always crossing over, going back and forth.
And coming in at number 4. Dolly Parton's iconic plea, Jolene. Jolene.
See, I would put I Will Always Love You would be there instead.
I'm with that too. I would put that too, because of its crossover with Whitney and all of that stuff.
And it's just a better written song too. All right,
I'm not a fan. I mean, Jolene deserves to be in there, but it's certainly not.
Now if you're asking what the most well-known country songs are by the masses, it probably would be, because Miley Cyrus has done a cover and everybody's done a cover, and it was in a movie and all that. So no knock on the song. Great tune.
I'll tell you what, man.
But she's got 150 great songs, and 148 of them are better than Jolene.
But I agree.
And I Will Always Love You is a standard.
It's
like Gershwin and things. It will go down as Bach and Beethoven, and then I Will Always Love You by her and Whitney Houston. I mean, iconic. And she wrote that for Porter Wagner on her way out the door, leaving the Porter and Dolly show, because Porter Wagner's the one that discovered her, brought her on the Porter Wagner Good Time Hour, whatever it was, and made her a star. Then she wrote that for him on the way out the door. She had to go do her own thing.
Coming in at number 3, Garth Brooks, party anthem, Friends in Low Places. I mean, you knew that one.
Well-known song.
Yeah.
Terrible song, well-known song.
It's not one of my favorites really either. It really isn't.
But when I was in 8th grade, when I was in or 6th or 8th grade, a dance party, whatever it was, me and all my friends of every color, age, denomination, hair length, whatever, we all knew that song. You know what I mean? Everybody's singing that song. I mean, it was big.
It. Coming in at number 2, Patsy Cline's Crazy, which we've talked about. That doesn't surprise me that it's on this list, but it's definitely one of the top songs of all time, for sure.
Beautiful song.
I think it's one of the top songs of all time for any genre.
Beautiful song. Written by Willie Nelson.
That's right. That's right.
Beautiful song.
And then coming in at number 1, I know you're going to love this, Johnny Cash's I Walk the Line. I disagree as well.
Anyone who's ever listened to more than 6 country music albums in their entire life disagrees with that.
Yeah, correct.
Unless they live in Arkansas.
So no George Strait in
unless
that
they
top
live
10.
in Arkansas. Unless they live in Arkansas or somewhere where Johnny Cash used to live, and they have a mini Johnny Cash memorabilia museum seance room in their house, they think that's wrong. I'm just saying.
Here's some notables, though, that was on Groks, whatever, list. Mama Tried, Merle Haggard came in at number 7 on that list. Amarillo by Morning came in at number 8 on that list.
Beautiful song.
Ring of Fire is what came in at number 9. Ring of Fire was on that other list, too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry with Hank Williams was number 4. And
Tear in My Beer, any of those would have been good.
Exactly. It had I Walk the Line at number 2, Crazy at number 3, and its number 1 was Jolene.
And in current times, like this, I'm going to put a couple on blast here because I know we're going to run out of time. But I like the list. There's way too many great songs. The list is okay for someone, but not anybody who really, really loves and digs into country music. Alan Jackson. It would have to be almost,
Alan
if
Jackson.
not a top 10, a top 15 artist of all time in my book.
Yep.
George Jones being snubbed off the top 10 is an absolute travesty, and it automatically lets me know whoever made this list does not know what they were talking about. Half of those people adored George Jones, and if you asked them at the height of their success who their favorite artist was or who the best artist was, they would have told you it was George Jones. I agree with you. Hank Williams Jr., if you're from the South and born after 1970 or 65, you probably think Hank Jr. is probably one of the best because Hank Jr. has, sold records, decades, entertainer of the year, took it to a whole new level, rock and roll, all that. And we didn't mention any groups in this bunch, but the group Alabama was your 25-time group of the year. They sold more records than any group ever.
And my personal favorite that was left out, Waylon Jennings. He's my number 1. Waylon's my number 1.
I always say if you're going to put Willie, Waylon, and Merle, you either put all of them or none of them. And also, if you want to talk about being known and being recognized, like I said earlier, Charlie Daniels would be one, and the Oak Ridge Boys. There's no one that made as much music in the vein of country and being real country and gospel as the Oak Ridge Boys, and none are more as recognizable as William Lee Golden with the beard.
Very true. Very
stuff
true.
like that. And then all of those bands all of those acts have songs that would be on that list. It's tough, but I don't agree with that. The song list is not.
It is tough. Well, look, I'm sure the controversy will continue from this. So y'all tune in next Thursday when we go live, or any Thursday. Jump in, and we'll definitely be continuing these conversations, drill them down a little bit more. But JR, hate that we didn't have Blasi today, but
he's gonna
this
be bummed.
Been a fun conversation.
Yeah, it was great, man. I'm glad we got to catch up. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Yeah, and if you've got a list or idea of something you want us to discuss on here, shoot it over. Let us know.
Yeah,
we appreciate everybody tuning in here on television, on the radio, on the podcast, anywhere you consume it. Like I said earlier, it's football season. We've got all kinds of stuff to talk about on these lives and on these shows. We're going to have some more guests lined up. So stay tuned for the ride. It's going to be real fun. And Hopefully we'll have Blasi back for the live this week. I'm not sure if I'll be able to make it or not. I'll be back out on the road. Like I mentioned earlier, we're on tour, the Country Round Here Tonight tour with Randy Houser and Sadie Bass. This past weekend, we kicked off the tour in Charlotte, North Carolina, went to Raleigh, then down to Macon, Georgia. This coming week, we're actually off the tour. We're doing some fairs in Iowa and Illinois. Then a week off. Then starting the end of September, we're going to Connecticut, Asbury Park, New Jersey, playing the Stone Pony in New Jersey at the outdoor amphitheater there. And then in Philadelphia on the 29th of the month. So if any Bubba Army or any listeners out there, any of these shows, y'all holler at me, flag me down. Love to see y'all at the show, and love talking to you guys every week on here. It's been fun.